It feels like just yesterday we were young, chasing dreams under the summer sky.
My son once said I was getting too frail, too slow to keep up with life on my own. Without a word to me, he moved me into a nursing home and settled into my house as if I'd already slipped away into the past. But I was still here, still sharp, and far from done. While he thought I'd just fade away without a fight, I was quietly putting together a plan, one that would remind him every single day not to underestimate his own mother. This is the story of how I turned things around and made him see the error of his ways. I brought Jason into this world with love and hard work, raising him mostly on my own after his father passed away too young. He was my everything back then. I scrubbed floors in other people's homes even when my back ached something fierce. There were nights I went to bed hungry so he could have a full plate. I even sold my cherished wedding band to get him a proper outfit for his high school graduation. Through it all, I never let on how tough it was. I always figured that kind of love would come back around when I needed it. Years went by and Jason grew up, got married to Danielle, and started his own life. I was proud of him, watching from the sidelines. But then one ordinary afternoon, I felt dizzy in the kitchen and fainted for a moment. It turned out to be nothing more than low blood sugar from skipping lunch. But Jason and Danielle showed up that evening, their faces full of worry that didn't quite ring true. "Mom, we're just thinking about what's best for you," Jason said, patting my hand. Danielle stood there nodding, her smile a little too rehearsed. They brought over a pot of chicken soup, asked about some old papers I had tucked away, and kept mentioning how challenging it must be for me to handle the house all by myself at my age. I didn't know it then, but behind closed doors, they were already making calls to lawyers and chatting with the neighbors, spreading whispers that I was starting to lose my grip on things. And Danielle, she'd quietly had the locks changed on my front door without telling me.
A few days later, they invited me for a special lunch, just us three. "We'll treat you like royalty," Jason said with his old grin. I went along, not suspecting anything, no extra clothes, no charger, just my regular shoes. But instead of a restaurant, they drove me to a place with plain beige walls and fake flowers. It was a nursing home. "It's just a short rest, Mom, to help you recover," Jason explained as he led me in. Danielle gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and then they left, driving off like it was nothing. The room they left me in was bare and cold, no photos, no books, just a strange bed and a dull window. When I tried calling Jason, the nurse gave me papers with his signature, medical forms, long-term stay agreements, all looking real but feeling wrong. I sat on the bed's edge, holding my hands tight to stop the shaking. But they trembled anyway. How did it come to this, after all I'd given, all I'd sacrificed? Days went by slowly. Jason ignored my calls. Danielle had blocked me. The same Danielle who once cried at my table about her troubles now acted like I didn't exist. Looking out at other residents wandering the halls, some lost in their thoughts, I wondered if this was my future. Forgotten, fading away. Is this how it ends for me? I thought, after giving my all to him. No, I decided, not this way. I wasn't going to stay silent. That night, I asked the nurse for a pen and a notebook. She thought I wanted to write memories or draw, but I had a different plan. I wrote down everything I could recall: dates, bank details, the house deed, and people who could help. I remembered my lawyer, Monica Reeves, a strong, dependable woman who'd always supported me. They might have thought I was too old to notice my frozen accounts or my name missing from bills. But I was the same woman who beat cancer years ago, who buried my husband and kept going. I wouldn't let this break me. I dialed Monica's number. It took a few tries, but I left a clear message. Monica, it's Dolores Mayfield. My son tricked me into this home with fake papers and took my house. I need your help, and I have proof. The next morning, she stormed into the nursing home, full of energy, briefcase in hand. We're getting you out, she said, hugging me warmly, and she meant every word. We sat together and uncovered the truth. The fake power of attorney, the deed still in my name, the bank statements showing their changes. Monica looked at me and asked, "How far do you want to go, Dolores? This could get tough." I took a deep breath and said, "All the way. I want justice that lasts." In just a few days, the courts ruled in my favor. Jason's false control was gone, and we locked him out of my money. I walked out of that home with my head high, feeling the sun again after so long. But we didn't stop there. Monica and I made a careful plan. No rushing back home yet. Soon, the judge ordered the house sold, the one Jason had claimed as his. The money came back to me, as it should. When Jason called, his voice shaky and pleading, "Mom, this can't be real. You can't do this." I stayed calm and replied, "The mistake was yours, son, thinking you could push me aside. You have 30 days to move out," and I hung up. But I wasn't finished. I wanted him to truly understand what he'd done. With the sale money, I bought a cozy little house right next door, perfect with a porch and rose bushes. Just right for me. On my first morning there, I wore my best hat, made some tea, and sat on the porch, soaking in the peace. Jason stepped out with his coffee and saw me. He froze, his face pale like he'd seen a ghost. I smiled and raised my cup in a small toast. He turned and went back inside without a word. That was enough for me. It wasn't about revenge or making a big scene. It was about proving I was still here, still strong, and that a mother's love doesn't mean you have to accept whatever comes your way. No matter how painful. Over the next few weeks, Jason kept his distance at first. I'd see him peeking out his window now and then, like he was checking if I was real or just a figment of his imagination. But slowly, things started to change. One afternoon, he came over with a box of my favorite chocolates, the kind I used to buy for him when he was little. He stood on my porch, shuffling his feet like a boy caught with his hand in the cookie jar. "Mom," he said, his voice soft and uncertain. "Can we talk?" I invited him in, and we sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought new with some of the house money. It was simple, just tea and biscuits, but it felt like the start of something. He apologized, really apologized, for the first time. He told me how stressed he'd been with work and family, how he thought he was helping, but now he saw how wrong it was. Danielle joined us later, and she admitted she'd been scared too. But that didn't excuse what they'd done. We talked for hours that day, and in the days that followed. It wasn't easy. There were tears, old hurts brought up, and moments where I had to remind myself to listen as much as speak. But we found our way back, piece by piece. Jason started coming over for Sunday dinners, just like old times. We'd sit on the porch watching the sunset, and he'd tell me about his kids, my grandchildren, who I'd missed so much during those dark days in the nursing home. As time went on, our bond grew stronger than before. He helped me plant those rose bushes in the garden, and we'd laugh about how stubborn we both were. Danielle and I even shared recipes again, like we used to when she first married into the family. It turned out that facing the truth head-on had cleared the air, making room for real forgiveness. Looking back now, I see that what happened taught us all some hard but valuable lessons. For Jason, It was about respecting the people who raised you, not assuming you know what's best without asking. He learned that age doesn't mean weakness and that pushing someone aside can cost you more than you realize. I made sure he understood that through the lawyers, the court papers, and yes, even buying that house next door. It wasn't just about getting my home back. It was about showing him that rights and dignity matter, no matter how old you are. And for me, it reminded me of my own strength, the kind that comes from years of quiet endurance. I'd fought battles before losing my husband, beating cancer, and this was no different. It showed me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to reclaim what's yours. If you're listening to this, dear friend, maybe you're in your golden years like me, or perhaps you're younger, navigating family ties that feel tangled. Take it from this old woman. Family bonds are precious, but they're not unbreakable if you let disrespect creep in. Always communicate, always listen, and never underestimate the power of forgiveness mixed with a firm boundary. Life's too short for grudges, but it's also too long to live without self-respect. Let me tell you more about how things unfolded after that first porch moment. A month or so later, Jason surprised me with a family gathering at his place. He invited the grandkids over, and we spent the day baking cookies and sharing stories. Little Emma, my granddaughter, climbed onto my lap and asked why Grandma lived next door now. I smiled and said, because sometimes families need a little space to remember how much they love each other that day. Jason pulled me aside and thanked me not just for forgiving him, but for teaching him to be a better son and father. He said he'd started talking more openly with his own kids, making sure they knew he was there for them without overstepping. It warmed my heart to see the ripple effect of what I'd done. As the seasons changed, our routine became a comfort. We'd walk in the neighborhood park together, chatting about everything from the weather to deeper things like regrets and dreams. I shared stories from my youth, growing up in a small American town during simpler times, and he opened up about his fears of getting older himself. It brought us closer, turning what could have been a broken relationship into something deeper and more honest. One winter evening, as snow dusted the roses, Jason confessed he'd been thinking about that nursing home experience. "Mom," he said, "I realize now how lonely it must have been. I'm sorry I put you through that." I nodded, feeling a weight lift that I didn't know was still there. We hugged, and in that moment, I knew we'd truly healed. For all of you out there, whether you're a parent feeling overlooked or a child trying to do right by your elders, remember this: relationships thrive on mutual respect. Don't wait for a crisis to show love, do it every day with small acts of kindness. And if things go wrong, know that it's possible to rebuild, one conversation at a time. In the end, living next door became a blessing. It kept us connected without smothering, allowing space for growth. Jason even helped me set up a little garden shed where I could potter around with my hobbies. We'd share meals across the fence, laughing about the irony of it all. This experience also made me reflect on broader life lessons. As we age, society sometimes sees us as burdens, but we're repositories of wisdom, stories, and love. To my fellow seniors in the US or UK, listening perhaps while sipping tea by the fire or walking in the park, embrace your strength. You've earned it through years of sacrifice. And to the younger folks, cherish your elders. Their guidance can light your path, but only if you let them. Jason and I now look back on that time not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the growth it brought. It's a reminder that even in hardship, there is room for redemption. So, if your family story feels stuck, take a deep breath, reach out, and start writing the next chapter together. After all, The best tales are those that end with hearts mended and bonds unbreakable.
Thank you for listening all the way through. If you enjoyed it, kindly like and share it with someone you care about. And remember to subscribe so we can continue this journey of stories together.